She crawled through the dirt, robbed, beaten, and left to die. The ground was cold, wet. Sharp stones pressed into her skin as she dragged her weak body forward. Her name was Zira, and she had nothing left. Not food, not credits, not even shoes. Her cloak was torn. Her legs were bleeding. Her face was swollen from the hits. A gang of alien street bandits had attacked her. They took everything she had, her bag, her coins, her food pills, even the small locket that reminded her of her family. She had begged them to leave it, but they only laughed and pushed her into the mud. Zira tried to scream, but her voice was gone. Only soft sounds came from her cracked lips. Every breath felt like fire in her chest. She had not eaten in 2 days. She had not slept in 3. Now she crawled. No one stopped to help. The alien city was loud and full of shadows. Tall buildings blocked the light. Creatures walked past her, eyes looking forward, pretending not to see. Some even stepped over her. One even kicked her, thinking she was trash. She reached out her hand toward a bakery stand. Warm light came from inside. She could smell sweet bread. Her belly cried, but the owner shouted and slammed the window. "No beggars," he said, waving a stick. She flinched and crawled away. Every part of her body hurt. She couldn't remember the last time someone had been kind to her. Her home planet had been destroyed in the war. She had arrived here as a refugee, but no one cared. They saw her as garbage, another alien without a place. Zira reached the edge of an alley. It was dark and smelled like oil and old food. She collapsed near a broken crate. Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. Her breath came slow. She thought she would die there. But then, footsteps. Heavy ones. Different from the fast steps of city people. These were calm, strong. She tried to look but couldn't lift her head. The footsteps stopped near her. She heard a soft voice. Deep. Not cruel. "Are you alive?" It was a male voice. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. Her body didn't move. Then she felt something soft. A cloth? No, a coat. Someone had placed a warm coat over her back. She opened her eyes just a little. A tall shape knelt beside her. His face was strange, smooth pinkish skin, short dark hair. Not one of the locals. He was human, a human man. She had only heard stories. Dangerous, wild, brave. He looked into her eyes. His didn't show fear or hate, only concern. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "Can you move?" Zira wanted to cry. She had been ignored, kicked, beaten. But now someone cared. I can't," she whispered. The human didn't wait. He reached out and gently lifted her in his arms. Zira gasped. She had never felt such warmth. His arms were strong but kind. He didn't grab her like the bandits. He held her like she was something precious. Aliens nearby stopped and stared. One even laughed. "Why help that trash?" Another spat. The human didn't answer. He just walked. Zira tried to speak again. "Why are you helping me?" she asked with dry lips. He looked down. "Because no one else will." His answer was simple, honest. Zira looked at his face one more time before closing her eyes. For the first time in many days, her heart felt something strange. Hope. A shadow stood over her. But he didn't hurt her. Zira opened her eyes slowly. She expected cold walls, darkness, hunger. But instead she felt warmth. Soft cloth covered her. A blanket. Clean. Light shone through a small window above her. Not harsh city light, but warm, golden light. She blinked. Her body still ached, but it was resting on something soft. A bed? She had forgotten what that felt like. Then she heard it. A kettle boiling. And quiet humming. Someone was near. Her heart jumped. Fear rushed in. The last time she woke up near, Someone. It ended in pain. She tried to sit up, but her arms shook. She looked down. Her cuts had been cleaned, her wounds wrapped. Someone had washed the dirt from her face. A shadow moved at the doorway. Zira flinched. The figure stepped in. It was him, the human. He had changed into a dark shirt. His sleeves were rolled up, and there was a small cut on his cheek. His eyes met hers. Calm. Focused. "You're awake," he said, walking in with a bowl in his hands. "Good." Zira didn't speak. She watched him carefully. Her body was still weak, but her mind screamed. "What does he want?" He sat on a crate near the bed and placed the bowl on a wooden table beside her. "Soup," he said simply. "Not great, but warm." Zira stared at the steam rising from the bowl. She didn't touch it. He noticed her hesitation. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I'm not one of them." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why did you help me?" The human didn't answer right away. He looked toward the window. "Because I've seen what this city does to people," he said. "I won't let it break." One more. Zira looked at him closely. His hands were rough. His shirt was old. He didn't look rich, not powerful, just human. He stood up and walked to the small kitchen space. The room was simple, wooden shelves, a heating unit, some tools and blankets piled in a corner. "Where am I?" she asked. "My place," he said. "Old workshop I fixed up. Not much, but safe." Zira still couldn't believe it. After days of cruelty, why was this stranger giving her safety? He poured water into a cup and handed it to her. Zira hesitated and then took it. Her hands trembled. She sipped. "Warm, clean." She almost cried. "Your name?" he asked quietly. She hesitated again. "Zira." He nodded. "I'm Jack." Silence passed between them. Zira looked around. There were marks on the wall, tools hanging, half-repaired machines. Jack wasn't rich, but he lived with care. Everything had its place. She forced herself to ask, why would a human care about a broken alien girl? Jack looked at her, his face unreadable. "You think you're broken?" She looked down. "I saw how they treated you," he said. "That doesn't mean you deserve it." Zira clenched the blanket tighter around her. She didn't know what to say. "I'm not trying to earn anything," Jack continued. "No payment, no favors. You needed help. That's it." Zira's eyes filled with tears. She turned her face away, hiding them. Jack didn't move. He didn't touch her. He let her breathe. After a long pause, she whispered, "I thought I would die there. I was ready." Jack looked down at his hands. "I've felt that way too," he said quietly. "But someone helped me once. Now it's my turn." Zira slowly turned back toward him. For the first time in her life, she saw something in someone's eyes, not pity, not disgust, not hunger, just respect. He carried her through the streets. Aliens stared, but no one dared stop him. The next day, Zira tried to walk. She stood for just a second before her legs gave out. She fell to the floor with a cry of pain. Jack was there in an instant, holding her up before she hit the ground. "Easy," he said, gently lifting her again. I can't be a burden," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You're not," he replied firmly. He placed her back on the small bed, but Zira looked down at her bruised feet. Her heart ached, not from wounds but from shame. She was weak, helpless, and still, this human treated her with kindness she didn't understand. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To get you better help," Jack said. "I've done what I can here. You need real medicine." Zira opened her mouth to protest, but Jack was already preparing. He wrapped her carefully in a warm blanket. Then, without another word, he picked her up in his arms like she weighed nothing. Outside, the streets were cruel as always. Garbage lined the sides of cracked walkways. Neon lights flickered overhead. Alien vendors shouted. Gangs lingered near alley mouths, eyes watching every movement. But the moment Jack stepped outside, the world noticed. A human walking through the alien slums was rare. A human carrying an injured alien girl? That was shocking. Some stared, others whispered, "Why is he holding her like that? She's one of the street rats." Humans and always strange. But no one stepped in. No one dared block his path. Zira buried her face in his chest, too ashamed to look. She felt eyes burning into her back. She waited for someone to laugh, waited for someone to throw a rock, waited for someone to spit. But it didn't come. Jack walked like none of them existed. Every step was calm, focused. His arms never shook. He didn't care who watched. One alien stepped into his path. A tall one with a sharp jaw and red eyes. "You lost, human?" Jack didn't even stop walking. He glanced at the alien, not with fear, but something stronger. A stare that made the alien step back without another word. Zira peeked up, her eyes wide. "Do they fear you?" she asked softly. Jack gave a small smile. "No. They fear what I'm willing to do if someone hurts you again." Zira blinked. No one had ever said anything like that to her, not even once in her entire life. He wasn't just helping her, he was protecting her. They reached a small hidden clinic at the edge of the sector. Jack knocked 3 times, then twice quickly. A lock clicked. The door opened to reveal an older alien woman in a white coat. She frowned when she saw Zira, bruised and bleeding. "Jack," the woman said. "Again. She needs help, Mira, and I trust you." The woman nodded and stepped aside. Inside, the room smelled of herbs and medicine. Warm lights glowed on the ceiling. Jack placed Zira gently on a clean table. Mira looked at her wounds, shook her head, and began working without another word. As she cleaned the cuts, Zira winced. "She's been through more than I can explain," Jack said quietly to Mira. "I can see that," Mira replied. Zira watched Jack stand silently by the door, arms crossed, eyes serious. He didn't leave. Her side. He didn't let anyone come close unless they meant help. And somehow, the pain in her body faded, replaced by something else. Trust, inside his shelter. She saw clean water, warm fire, and something she'd forgotten: safety. The wind outside howled like a hungry beast. But inside Jack's small shelter there was warmth. Real warmth. Not just heat from the fire, but something deeper. Something Zira hadn't felt since she was a child. She sat on a soft cushion near a crackling heater. A thick blanket covered her shoulders. The bruises on her arms were fading, her cuts now wrapped in fresh bandages. The taste of warm soup still lingered on her tongue. The clinic visit was over, and now she was back at his place. Not in a cage. Not behind a locked door. Not under a roof that dripped filth or smelled of waste. But in a room where someone had chosen to care. Zira looked around. The walls were patched metal and worn wood. The floor was rough, but clean. Tools hung neatly on the wall. A small stove heated the corner. In another area, she noticed a folded bed, clothes hanging, even books stacked in a crate. Jack lived here alone. Yet, he had made space for her. She turned to him. He was kneeling by the heater, adding small sticks and dry fuel to keep the flames alive. Orange light danced across his face. "You didn't have to bring me back," she said quietly. "I did," Jack replied, not looking up. "I wasn't going to leave you at the clinic." "But why?" she whispered. He stood and faced her. "Because no one deserves to be thrown away." Zira lowered her eyes. She wasn't used to kindness that didn't have a price. "You'll be safe here," Jack added. "No one comes looking, and if they do..." He tapped the side of a strange weapon lying. On the table beside him, Zira smiled just a little. "You're not like the others." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Other humans?" "No," she said. "Other anyone." Silence filled the room for a few moments. The fire popped softly. Zira reached forward, letting her hands hover over the warm flame. Her fingers were still rough, her nails cracked. But slowly the color was coming back to her skin. Slowly, her body remembered what peace felt like. She noticed a small mirror in the corner and caught a glimpse of her reflection. She looked different. Not pretty, not clean, not perfect, but alive. And that meant something. "I haven't seen myself in days," she muttered. "Then it's time you start seeing who you really are," Jack said. Zira looked at him again. He wasn't handsome in the way her kind spoke of beauty, but there was strength in his face, kindness in his eyes. She had met many faces. His was the first that didn't frighten her. He handed her a towel. "There's warm water in the basin," he said. "It's not a fancy bath, but it works." She hesitated. "You want me to?" He smiled lightly. "You need to wash. You'll feel better. I'll step outside." She didn't expect that. Most would watch. Most would want something in return. But Jack was already heading toward the door. "I'll be outside. Call if you need anything." And then he was gone. Zira stared at the door, then at the towel, then at the steaming basin on the small table. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. She washed her face first, then her arms, her shoulders, her neck. Each touch of water felt like magic. The filth of the streets, the blood, the smell of fear. It all went down the drain. She scrubbed until her skin turned pink, until the girl in the mirror no longer looked like the one who had crawled through the dirt. She looked new, not whole, but healing. When Jack came back inside, she was sitting quietly, her damp hair tied with a strip of cloth. He paused for a second, just looking. "I barely recognized you," he said softly. Zira smiled. "Me, too." The bandits returned, and this time, she wasn't alone. Zira slept deeply that night, for the first time in years. No cold wind, no boots kicking her awake, no shouting, no hunger twisting her belly. Only the soft sound of a heater and the scent of clean blankets. But safety, she would learn, never lasted long in this city. Just before dawn, Jack stood by the door, tightening a belt across his waist. A small energy pistol hung by his side. His eyes scanned the shadows outside through a dusty window. He had noticed something strange, quiet movement in the alley, a sound that didn't belong. Footsteps, low voices, too quiet to be neighbors, too early for merchants. Trouble. Jack didn't say a word to Zira. She was still resting, wrapped in her blanket, her face peaceful for once. He pulled on his jacket and stepped outside. There, in the shadows, were 4 figures, rough-looking aliens, faces half-covered, weapons barely hidden beneath coats. He knew them, the same bandits that left Zira for dead, and they remembered her too. One of them stepped forward, grinning with broken teeth. "You've got something that belongs to us, human." Jack's voice was cold. "She doesn't belong to anyone. She owes us," the second bandit hissed. "She took food. She ran. She thinks she's safe now?" Jack didn't blink. "You'll leave. Now." The third bandit raised a blade. "Or what?" Jack answered with steel. Before the blade was fully lifted, Jack's fist met the alien's face. He moved fast, trained, clean, precise. The attacker fell with a cry, blood flying from his mouth. The others rushed forward. Inside, Zira woke to the noise. Her eyes widened. She ran to the door, opened it, and froze. Jack stood firm, facing 3 armed aliens. One lunged. Jack ducked and swung low, knocking the creature to the ground. The second pulled a weapon, but Jack was faster. His pistol fired once. The shot hit the attacker's hand, forcing him to drop it with a scream. Zira watched in shock. Jack wasn't just kind. He was dangerous when he needed to be. The last bandit backed away, dragging his hurt friend. "This isn't over, human," he shouted. Jack aimed his pistol. "If you come back, you won't walk away." The cowards ran. Jack stood in silence, chest rising slowly. His eyes were cold. Then he looked back and saw Zira. She was shaking. I thought they would take me again, she whispered. Jack walked to her. They won't. You could have died. But I didn't, he said simply. Zira looked at the ground. No one's ever stood up for me. Not like that. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. No one ever should have had to, he said. She leaned forward, rested her forehead against his chest. You didn't have to fight. I did, he said. Because you're not alone anymore. And, in that moment under a rising sun and broken city sky, Zira realized something she never expected. She was no longer running. She was standing, because someone finally stood for her. She begged him to run. But he said, I won't leave you. Behind Zira's hands were still shaking. Hours had passed since the fight, but the fear stayed with her. The memory of those faces, the anger in their eyes, the way they spoke about her like she was nothing but a stolen object. She sat by the fire, staring into the soft orange flames, but her thoughts were far away. Jack moved around the room, checking. Weapons, placing tripwires, locking doors twice. He worked in silence, calm but alert. He had seen danger before, and he knew more was coming. Zira finally spoke. You should leave. Jack paused. She looked at him with tired eyes. They'll come back, and they'll bring more. You helped me once. That should be enough. He shook his head. No. Jack. Her voice broke. I'm not worth dying for. Jack stepped closer. His eyes met hers. I decide what's worth it, he said. And I'm not running. Zira stood, fists clenched. They'll kill. You. Then I'll fight anyway, he said. But I won't leave you behind. Tears welled in her eyes. Why are you like this? What do you want from me? Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, I want you to live. That's it. Zira looked away, wiping her face. She had heard every kind of lie, every fake promise, every sweet trap. But Jack's voice held no trick, no hunger, just truth. Outside, the city was waking. Distant sirens echoed. Ships passed overhead. But inside that small workshop, a war was quietly building. Jack gave her a comm link. If something happens, if they come again, you hide. You call me. You don't come out no matter what you hear. Zira stared at the small device in her hand. And you? He gave a faint smile. I've handled worse. But Zira wasn't sure. She'd seen men fall. She'd seen good people crushed. What made Jack different? The next day came, then the next. Nothing happened until the third night. She was folding blankets when she heard it. A whistle, low, sharp, and wrong. Jack heard it too. He froze. Basement, he whispered to her. Zira hesitated. Now. She ran. He moved toward the door, pistol in hand. Shadows danced outside. Bang. The door burst open. 3 figures rushed in. This time they were armed for war. Jack fired first. One fell. Another ducked. The small room filled with smoke and noise. Sparks flew. The heater tipped. A shelf crashed. Zira, hidden behind a steel. Docker in the lower room clutched the comm link, eyes wide. Then, silence. She pressed the comm link. Jack? No answer. She opened the door just a little. Smoke, cracked wood, and Jack, lying on the floor. No, she whispered, running to him. Blood on his arm, a burn on his neck. But he was breathing. She knelt beside him. Jack, get up. He opened one eye. I said, don't come out. I don't care, she cried. You saved me. Now let me save you. He coughed, gave a weak smile. I guess. We're both stubborn. Zira helped him sit. Her hands trembled, but she didn't stop. She tied cloth over his wound, dragged him to safety, blocked the door, and, for the first time, she wasn't the one being saved. She was fighting for him. From a robbed nobody to a protected soul. She finally smiled again. The storm had passed. Smoke still lingered in the corners of the shelter. Tools lay scattered. The heater was broken. The door was cracked. Blood stained the floor. But Zira stood, tall. Her clothes were torn, her face marked by worry and dirt, but her hands didn't shake anymore. She had faced her fear. She had protected the only person who had ever protected her. Jack rested on the bed, his shoulder wrapped tightly, his face pale but peaceful. He had lost blood, but he would live. Zira sat beside him, holding a cup of warm broth. She had made it, not perfectly. It was a little too salty, but it was warm. When Jack opened his eyes, she smiled and lifted the cup. "You're not dying today," she said softly. He gave her a tired grin. "That's good to know." She helped him sit up slowly. He sipped from the cup, his hand brushing hers. "You fixed me up?" he asked. Zira nodded. "You saved me first. I'm just returning the favor." Jack looked around at the damaged shelter. "We'll have to rebuild." She nodded again. "We will." The word "we" surprised even her. She looked around the room. It wasn't just his place anymore. It felt like home. Not because of walls or fire, but because of something else. Because someone finally looked at her and didn't see a broken girl, a stray, a thief, or trash. He saw a person, a soul. And now, she saw one too, hers. 3 days later, the city streets had already forgotten the fight. The world moved on, fast and cruel as always. But in the corner of that broken sector, things had changed. Zira stood outside, wearing clean clothes. Her wounds had healed. Her eyes were brighter. She looked up at the sky, a dull gray filled with smoke and ship trails. But somewhere behind that sky, stars still shined. She heard Jack's voice from inside calling her. "Need help with this generator?" "I'm coming," she called back. But before she went, she looked down at her hands, once used for crawling, stealing, begging. Now they built, now they protected, and for the first time in her memory, she smiled. Not because someone gave her food, not because someone spared her life, but because someone gave her worth, and that changed everything.